Hello, everyone, and welcome back to VectoScalar Tech Talk show. In this show, we always bring thought leaders, tech leaders from the industry to share their insights, their experiences with us. And in this episode, our guest speaker, Daya Prakash, is going to cover insights about India's role in global IT outsourcing. Welcome, Daya, to the show.
Thank you so much, Vikas. Thank
And
you
for
so
the
much for
benefit
having me.
of audience, let me give you a brief introduction about Mr. Daya Prakash. Mr. Daya Prakash is the founder of TalentOnLease and is on a mission to transform talent acquisition. He is ex-CIO of LG and having 20 plus years of experience in the enterprise and digital technologies domain with vast experience at a global level. His views and articles have been published in all the leading magazines and national dailies such as CIO, Economic Times, Financial Express, DataQuest, Network Computing, Express Computers, and many more. He has been part of several prestigious national and international summits and conferences as expert and panelist as a speaker. There, it's our pleasure to have you on VectoScalar Tech Talk show. You have
Pleasure
such
is
an
mine,
amazing journey.
Vikas. Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me.
So, first of all, my question would be that how is the transformation from CIO to having your own company to the entrepreneurship, from a corporate leader to entrepreneurship? How has been the journey?
I think interesting question, and it takes me back to the time when I started deliberating on this particular issue when I was thinking about my own career growth, and this is like sometime early to mid 2000s, where I had achieved a certain position in the industry in the organization that I was working, and that happened to be the top position in India available at that point of time. So, obviously, my thought process was that as a professional, you always like to grow, right? And my question to myself was that where do I see myself growing beyond this particular role, further to this role? And I had that thought in my mind, which I discussed with my the HR leader, and I asked him candidly that where do you see this role of mine taking me in next, let's say, 5 year or so.
Yeah,
And he was a very very thorough gentleman and professional, and he said that, look, you're already on the top of the function that you're heading. And to be very very honest with you, if I look at your own growth chart, ideally you should be preparing yourself to for shifting outside India, as long as you're talking about this organization, that and looking for a growth opportunity in the organization. So you should be looking at opportunity overseas. And that's where I had a strong disconnect with my growth path in that organization, because I was absolutely clear in my mind, in my heart, that India is the place where I want to spend my whole life. I have a global experience and exposure. That is fine. You keep traveling to overseas and for your work and other things, and keep learning things from there. But in terms of building your own career, is something that was not acceptable to me, or it wasn't the right path for me, at least. And there I started deliberating about it, and I said that I need to think about something. And I think the option I had was two only. One is look for a change in another company, maybe with similar role but bigger challenges, etc., etc. But then I said that I would do so, and someday I will again hit the same question. There also there is a high probability. So the obvious other option that I had was that if I take a plunge at that point of time and devote my a decade or so of experience that I had gained by that time into building something that I could kind of carry with me till the time I am. So that's the whole thought, and that kind of encouraged me to take a plunge and be on board on the entrepreneur journey. So that's how the whole thing started, because
it's very inspirational because yesterday only there was your story event was happening, and we at VectoScalar were there. I along with our founder CEO Nikhil, And it
Mhm.
was interesting to see when people are talking about entrepreneurship and it's a journey less traveled. It seems easy, but when we talk about the nuances, the challenges that people face, it's so critical to see. And actually, it's a motivation to see that when you took that decision, it's easy to go outside and follow the path where it is having a more monetary advantage as well. But choosing, no, I'll stay here, I'll use my experience, global experience, to help India and transform into a better country. That's a great thing. And in your introduction, you also mentioned about you have a mission to transform talent acquisition. Tell me more about that. What is that mission and how you are planning to transform that?
Right. I mean, so if you look at current landscape in terms of companies looking for talent, talent looking for right organizations or companies to get a job in, there are very traditional methods, right, and age-old methods by which the whole matchmaking is happening. Um, so if you talk to companies, they will always say that I am faced with this biggest challenge, which is quality of the tech talent we are not getting. So that's the biggest pain point challenge that they always have. And on the other side, you look at the candidates and they say that even though I feel that I'm a deserving candidate, but I don't have means and ways to reach out to right companies where I can just kind of present my candidature, and I am super confident that my skills would definitely bring value to that organization or company. So that's clearly a mismatch there. Majority of the matchmaking that is happening or the hiring that is happening is more driven from an organization side, if you look at it, right. So what we're trying to do here at Talent on Lease, we're trying to create a platform which is basically giving visibility to both sides equally. All right. So on one
Okay.
hand, there are organizations who are looking for talent. On the other hand, there are talented pool of resources that are present on the platform. So it's our job and mission is to kind of connect the both ends and make sure that the whole partnership that gets generated or created through this whole effort is something that brings a lot of value for both the sides, right? So the candidate doesn't feel that I don't have enough opportunities today in terms of getting into the right organization. I don't have the ways and means. And on the other hand, the organization says that it's a lengthy process of hiring somebody, and at the same time, if there is a hiring mistake that happens in the process, this is going to cost me too much, too dearly, right? So that's the challenge that we have. So that's where we are kind of focusing very heavily on building this platform and creating the trust, authenticity, credibility on both sides, where both sides have the equal opportunity to kind of engaged with each other.
Right, right. And it's a interesting thing to know that, as you mentioned, that we have been doing the even the technology based recruiting technology for the technical resources even through the old age method. And why not to apply the technology to solve that problem even for the technical resources? And that's what Talent on Lease is doing. It's a great thing to know. And because you have a vast experience of 20 plus years of experience of in the industry, so how IT services have changed? Like, is it the same like it used to happen like 20 years ago, or things have changed now?
It is definitely not Vikas. It's definitely not Vikas. And I think you would agree, you would have heard and agree, we all agree to saying that, change is the only constant, right?
True.
And being in the IT industry, being in the IT field, this is the best thing one could kind of witness is that the amount and the pace of the change, the rapid nature of the change that involves the IT industry, I think it's very difficult to see in the other industries or any other field. I mean, I'm not saying that there are other fields where the advancement would not have happened. We see advancement happening in almost all industry across industries, right? But the sheer speed at which this advancement or the transformation is happening within IT is mind-boggling. So that's what I enjoy being part of this IT industry. And if I really give you a little idea of what we are talking about in terms of how the landscape has changed. Early 90s to mid 90s were the time or the days. So I'm taking you 3 decades instead of 2 decades, but
Right.
I'm sure that this is this is going to be helpful. So I'm just kind of
Sure.
sharing that with you.
So,
So
so you are
the
taking us to the
90s.
time. Probably some of the viewers may not have been born by that time.
Actually, but just to give you the context and
Yeah.
just give everyone the context that that was the time between 1990 to 2000 was the time when the whole digitization, IT adoption, digitization, transformation just started taking place, right? So there were organizations who are like trying to adopt IT. There were organizations who were thinking of adopting IT. That was the scenario. uh, Comes 2000 when everybody gets busy solving the Y2K bug, etc., etc., and then there is little less focus on IT adoption, transformation, etc. But journey starts as soon as everybody realizes that we are not bitten badly by the bug called Y2K, and everybody jumps onto the bandwagon of innovation, transformation, and start adopting IT at a pace which is like everybody wanted to be on that board. So that happened, and I think that was the time when almost every organization was focusing more on adopting the enterprise class IT solutions, the typical ERPs, right?
Right.
And building enterprise class applications beside these ERPs, which were evolving and growing. And then if you talk about like last 10 years or so, or a decade or so, the focus has been majorly on how to bring in more efficiencies, how to bring in more agility, how to bring in like the whole computing power that we have in our hands today, how to make it more effective, that it becomes a life changing experience for all of us, right? So which
Right.
means it necessitates for everyone to have those applications and infrastructure, everything in such a manner, transformed in such a manner that we all get to see the advantages of it. So majority of the things that we are able to do on just the mobile apps today, right? Sheer a swipe or a click, that's the kind of power that we have gotten today, was little difficult to think of during that point of time, during the enterprise class application days, because uh, they were kind of not like they were monolithic, and they were like heavy weight. But the kind of the experiences that we have today, 10 minutes grocery, any sort of anything that you wish to accomplish, you are just a swipe or a click away. That is the scenario. That, I mean, if you look at IT, how IT has evolved and how it has become part of mainstream of our day-to-day life today. So that's amazing. That's amazing. We can go on little deep
Right.
into it in
Right.
terms of the technological landscape that has changed from typical client server applications to n-tier, multi-tier applications, to the technologies today that are being kind of used building those applications and giving us all the power that we see today. It's completely changed. Completely changed.
Yes.
When I
Yes.
hear some people say that some of the jobs that are going to be created in let's say next 5 to 10 years are not or do not exist today,
Right.
I don't wonder, because I've seen this happening, right? There are a lot of people who come back and say that this is ridiculous, yeah. How is this possible that there'll be kind of jobs in 5 years, 10 years that we have not heard, or we have not even thought about those jobs, but 10 years back, 15 years back, maybe the data scientist, the I mean, some of the roles, cloud, DevOps, data scientist, I mean, AI, ML, where were these roles? There were hardly. There were hardly. Yeah, but people had started. Cloud was there, and the whole journey had started. But many things that we see today did not exist that time.
Yeah, I do agree on that part. Like terms like because IBM was my first company, so in
Mhm.
2006. So uh, we don't no more hear those words about AS400, IBM mainframes, those kind of technologies. And on a lighter note, somebody found a old floppy disk and gave to his kid, and he said that, "What is it? Do you know?" And he said, "Probably somebody has 3D printed a save icon." So they don't know. They just visualize that somebody has printed that save icon.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely,
definitely the
absolutely.
scenario has changed a lot. I'm seeing a question coming from Saddam Hussein. Before moving forward, let's take the that question. So Saddam is asking, what advantages does India have over other countries in terms of IT outsourcing, such as cost, talent pool, and infrastructure?
So, Saddam, at a very, very high level, just to answer your question, I think you're talking about cost, you're talking about talent pool, you're talking about infrastructure, and I think all three of them are the real advantage that India has today, right? Uh, so, in terms of cost, we still have some cost advantage to be offered to the Western world or the overseas countries when they think about outsourcing their work, IT work to India, particularly in terms of talent pool. I think we are the biggest talent pool. I think we are the caterers of the entire world IT, as far as the talent pool, the question of talent pool is concerned. In terms of infrastructure, the amount of development of the infrastructure that we have seen in last 1 or 2 decades that we were just speaking about, uh, it's kind of huge. And I'll just give you one example here, that one of my friend having a talk with a customer in the US, or a potential customer in the US, telling him upfront, saying that I'm calling you from India, right? Just wanted to be very, very clear that you know the company was based out of India. And the customer happened to tell the friend of mine, saying that, we are all working remotely. So even if you are working in India, or you are working in the next door office of my building, if you're not working in the same premise, same building, seeing each other, it does not make any difference to me, right? Because
Right.
it's all about availability, uninterrupted availability, right? Whether it is power, whether it is network, whether it is anything and everything. So uh, like you and me, or because we are connected today, it doesn't matter whether you are sitting in India, US, or wherever, right? We are all together in this at this platform. So that's how it is. And I would say that all three advantages we have, Saddam.
Okay. That's an interesting input. Though I would like to just understand more on the cost, because things the cost of resources have increased in India compared to the way it used to be there earlier, right? So
Yeah.
in some of the conversations, especially in the international clients, I've heard those conversations that advantage of cost has minimized to some extent. People, the way the
And that is
salaries of Indian
abs-
engineers have increased, so it seems
absolutely,
like in some of the
absolutely.
conversation, people will say that why to outsource in some other country? We can have the resources at that similar cost in within our country itself.
Absolutely, Vikas. Absolutely, Vikas. And that's how, and that's why I said to Saddam that, if you look at a very, very high level, we have
Right.
all three advantages, whether it is cost, talent pool, infrastructure, everything is the advantage that works in favor of India today. However, this is also a concern, that the kind of rising cost, right, typically being experienced by the IT service company today, in fact,
Yes.
and a lot of them are, and trust me on this, and a lot of such companies are bleeding today, because the cost advantage is gone. All right, the cost has become so much that it has actually put in a doubt on the whole business model for a lot of companies, in fact, right? So if I talk about 2 3 decades back, the kind of margins that we used to enjoy, and the cost benefit that we had, versus off late, if you talk about, particularly if you talk about last decade and a half, the cost benefit has really gone down, and in some cases it is to an extent that a lot of global services are saying that the cost that you're offering me, I could actually outsource the work to some other geography,
Yeah.
instead of outsourcing it to India, right? So the whole the question is that we do have cost advantage. I say that one, I repeat myself, uh,
Right.
because the kind of entry point that we have in the
Yeah.
industry, particularly this workforce coming out of colleges, and till the time they attain maybe 3 to 4 years of work experience, we still have the advantage, but then the advantage is kind of completely eroded when it comes to real senior positions we are talking about.
Right,
You know,
right. And so thanks, Saddam. Thanks for asking your question. So there, as you just mentioned, that there are other geographies which are coming. So the three kind of advantages that we used to have, like engineers, cost effectiveness, and English. I think
right.
there are other countries, other geographies which have done well. So do you see, what's your take? What are the other geographies which are coming and which are competing with the similar three things for the resources?
So I think because this is a fact of today, and we have to accept it, right? That there is a competition to which we have given rise by kind of working against the cost advantage that we had to other countries, right? So uh, typically, as you rightly mentioned, the English speaking and the cost advantage, these two advantages uh, doesn't look like very strong case for India as far as IT outsourcing is concerned, from the global IT outsourcing is concerned. Um, so there are other geographies such like Latin America, all right, in the Europe, right, um, Southeast Asia. There are many destinations that have kind of emerged, wherein I heard people saying that they have uh, you know maybe better quality at times experience that they would have compared to outsourcing the work in India, right? So it's a matter of fact, it's a matter of concern also for Indian outsourcing industry, that if we have to maintain that advantage, right, what are the ways in which we can do so? One, two, what are the other avenues we can explore to kind of
Right,
retain that competitive advantage that we always had, right? So if you only talk about cost, if you only talk about English, I think in the long run that's not going to be sufficient, right? So we'll have to think of uh, more avenues than just these two basic advantage that we can
right,
keep talking about. And in my mind, that's where again India has a very strong opportunity in hand, right? In terms of the work that we do, if we can take that work level up by leveraging AI in true sense, right? If we can work, I think, on our productivities, efficiencies, and our expertise in terms of technology skills, and not just technology skill, but the domain expertise, right? I mean, these three, four things put together will actually put you in a place where no more discussion is all around just the cost and English speaking, right? And
right,
it actually goes beyond that. So if we are able to demonstrate that the kind of the large scale applications, the India is kind of building today. Take example of likes of Paytm, and maybe Oyo, and so many startups. You can take those examples from there. And these are just to name, but there are many more. There are many more who have been doing wonderful job, right? I mean,
right,
if you look at these companies, the scale of the solutions that they have built, and the adoption, etc., right? If you are able to word that, if you are able to build that world class applications, infrastructures at scale, which are like unheard of, and the UPIs, like, I mean, the whole initiatives by the government of India today in terms of building that infrastructure, digital infrastructure, right? I mean, if you're talking about those as your advantages and not just the cost and English speaking, I think that is something that will take you another couple of decades as a leader in the competition.
right, right. And I see that's a very beautiful anecdote, and the understanding that it's not just about cost and engineering or English anymore. We need to talk about innovation and quality. And in the same line, we have another question coming from Aman Chadha. In what ways do you foresee India's evolving technological prowess and innovation impacting the global IT landscape in the coming years? So you already talked about innovation
So
to some extent, companies like Paytm, but any other example, anything to add
I
to
mean,
this?
the whole the UPI, right, is one of the biggest ONDC UPI. I mean, you talk about these applications today, right? I mean, you would have all seen, I'm sure, that example of G20 summit, and where there was delegate, ministerial delegate coming from Germany and trying to buy stuff from the streets of India and making a payment through UPI, and wondering like, what the hell is this happening, right? Are they really paying, not paying, or what it is? And just to realize that this has become such a digital footprint today, that we keep doing it day in day out, actually. So I think there are a lot of innovation that has already happened in India, and there's a lot of innovation that's happening. The booming startup ecosystem today, you
Yeah.
compare the startups in India in 2014. I think somewhere I read the number was about 314 or something like that, 300 plus startups in 2014 in India, to maybe close to 1 lakh startups in India today, right? Um, and look at the solutions that they're trying to build all across, right? And it's not a specific domain, but I think fintech is one of the largest contributors. Fintech, health tech, retail tech, travel tech. These are like ed tech. These are like some of the pillars of the tech innovation that's happening in India at a massive scale, that is going to impact the entire globe, right? So, uh, India from typical IT service provider is changing its gear, has already changed its gear, and getting acknowledged, identified as a different league player, right?
Great.
Uh, so Aman, like, we are making the impact from India today globally. That's something that I could say, and that's the reason that you heard these days this term very common, where they are saying reverse brain drain, right? So that's getting prominence just because of this only, because everybody acknowledges, sees, and acknowledges that if there is action happening, it's happening from India, and it is happening for the globe.
That's a powerful statement, that action is happening from India for the globe. And I'm sure, Aman, your question is very well answered. And interestingly, as I just mentioned, you named few people or the brands, and I was there in your story event. So Vijay Shekhar was there. Vijay, so he
He
was
was there.
talking about that Paytm, that how things have changed, how earlier we may not have a companies like with the turnover of $1 billion, and they saw the investment of $1 billion. And
Yeah.
interestingly, ONDC the CEO Koshi was there, was talking
Mhm.
about how things are changing in the ONDC space. So a lot of innovation is happening, and startup is taking a next level journey. I think it is the time
Absolutely.
that we might see the bigger companies coming out of India. That's
Yeah.
definitely the way to go ahead.
Right. So the
I
traditional IT service industry established India on the global map, and this startup is basically making it prominent. I would say it like that.
Right. Yeah.
So one
So
one
startup
helped
is
us
making it
establish on the one
yeah.
helped us establish on the world map. The other one is actually making us prominent player on the world map. The superpower, whatever you call it, is something that
And as we are talking about the product and service, I think now coming back to the role that we are playing, hiring the resources and making them available to the other companies, that how they can use their technology power. And I think that that has also added to the complexity of the pay packages. The pay packages offered by service companies were very different from product companies, and because earlier there were only few product companies, only few people were there in that ecosystem. But now I think that has also added an additional challenge for the people, to make other people understand, probably the engineers understand, that there is a difference between the service industry and product industry. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think because this is again a reality. It's a fact that product-based companies would actually be in position to pay premiums versus the typical IT service industry, right? It's a fact. Nobody can deny it. But at the same time, I mean, my advice to all the people who are looking for the job would be that uh, if I am one of you, right, I would also be thinking of maximizing the return. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? But at the same time, what we need to understand is that the consumption power of these product based companies, right? You know, how many how many employees they will employ, right? How many jobs they will offer versus the service industry, right? So that is one, basically. So that we have to understand. So which means if I am a candidate, I have to clearly understand that I have to actually beat the big competition to be in the league of where a service industry might find me a right, best suitable candidate, or whatsoever it is. Product company may ask me to kind of up my end in terms of the skills and the knowledge that I take to them. I have to offer them. So I have to be in that competition. Nothing wrong with that, but many times what I've seen is that people think that since this is happening there, the product companies are kind of offering the salaries which are way high than IT service companies. I have a reason to be associated with IT service company, but be dissatisfied with the remuneration that I keep that I get. So we have to understand it completely in the holistic this thing view, and see that that if we have that skill and knowledge and everything, that we can kind of we feel that worthy enough to be part of the product company. Obviously the salaries are high, but there are different expectations there, right? So the kind of expectations there are very very different from what you have in typical IT service industry.
Right. Those differences exist, and I think the industry is getting more and more mature. Like, people are getting to know those differences, and then if they have the potential, they can definitely transition. That's the beauty of IT industry, that there are no hard gate. It's not an industry
Absolutely.
like medical, that once you have become say a dental, you can't change into surgeon. But it's an industry which that welcomes everyone. You can always
Right.
transition from wherever you are to wherever you want to go, and you can develop those skills. That's a
And
beauty of IT industry.
I can share one practical example, because like product is a different ball game altogether, right?
Yeah.
There is this friend of mine who got into, so he used to work in IT service company, got into IT product company, and he was like very very happy, right? But in the beginning, but like 1 or 2 years later, when I had this conversation with him, he said that it's a very different game altogether. And I said, what happened? So he says that in the typical IT service company, within 2 years I used to change my project. I was working on a project, and that project, what was the project's life and everything, I was least concerned about it. You know as long as I was concerned, I completed the project, moved out of it. But this is the product that I'm myself creating it, and in 2 years' time, I'm realizing that something that I thought in terms of building this product, building some functionalities, capabilities. Uh, if I look back time, I think that I should have thought a little bit more about it, because now it is hurting me. Product never changes, right? It evolves, but
Right.
fundamentally it does not changes, right? So the mindset that you need to have is something that you're thinking about a problem and a solution which will last maybe 10 years, 20 years, something like that. It's different mindset. So he said that now when I build a solution, I'm in not hurry to kind of give a quick fix. I spend a lot of time in thinking about it versus less time on implementing it. So that's a clear uh, difference in way how the industry in product side and service side operates.
Yes, and because with my personal experience of working in IBM Global Services, then moving to McAfee, which was a product company, so I've seen that transition. I've been there, done that. That, yes, there is that difference that exists. My next question would be around that: what is the role of tier two and three cities in the IT industry? Because earlier there were few focus hubs like Gurgaon, Bangalore, definitely Pune and Hyderabad. So we had some couple of hubs, but I think now
Mm.
companies are spreading to tier 2, tier 3 cities, companies opening centers in Dehradun or other places. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there are two things. One is uh, the talent pool that we have in India, particularly the IT talent pool, right? It's spreaded across all cities now, right? So the deep rooting of the education system, higher education system, has actually reached to tier 2, 3, 4 cities also today, right? That is number
Right.
one, the factor number one. So with that, basically you have the availability of talent pool in tier 2, tier 3 cities. That has ensured availability of talent pool in these cities, right? The second thing is that a lot of things have gone. So it's not like particularly in IT industry, it is not that you got to be very close to the line of action, right, where the action is happening. So you could actually work a lot of things remotely.
Yes.
So in terms of learning opportunities, in terms of skill requirement, etc., all that. So that gap is narrowed today's in today's context, where earlier it used to be like these technologies, current technologies, latest technologies are only available in, let's say, tier 1 cities and in tier 1 colleges of that city or something like that. You have the accessibility of it across all levels, right? The third thing that we spoke about in terms of the advantage, India advantage, right? And we spoke about the cost factor, right? Now, if we are looking at seriously addressing the cost advantage, or the lose concern about the losing cost advantage question, right? There
Yeah.
I think we have, from a company side, a lot of focus on making sure that how do we bring it down. And one of the answer that lies in how you can bring down the overall cost of IT service company is basically look for talent pool which you get from tier 2, tier 3 cities, where the cost of living, where so many other factors help you kind of give you advantage for a couple more years.
Right. So we need to leverage now the second level talent pool that exists. And as you rightly mentioned, because of the colleges and engineering colleges that have opened in other cities as well, so it has given access to that talent pool that we can have. I have another question coming from Saddam, who is asking, in the context of IT outsourcing, how does India approach ethical considerations such as data privacy, security, and responsible business practices? Because it's a very critical thing, especially in the international market, right?
Yeah. And I think, we all heard, I think 2 days back, it was in the news, something happened, some source code got stolen
Right.
from some company and all that, right? So I think, Saddam, I would say that all these concerns are very, very valid concerns. Um, you're talking about approach, actually, Saddam. And I say that, we can say so many things, we can wish so many things, but if you really talk about approach which is more like controllable approach, it is something that starts with me, right? Each one of us has to think like that. So all these issues with regards to data privacy, security, and all the ethical businesses, confidentiality, etc., IP protection, all these things, we as an individual, we as a workforce of IT industry today, all of us, we have to kind of understand, be aware, and spread this awareness to the community and the workforce, and everybody, right? So that is where I see that today there is a lack of understanding at our own levels, which we can then kind of percolate down it to kind of something that we can make aware others. So first it has to start from us, so we should be kind of very much aware of it. We should also be aware of the consequences. We should also be very clear about the ethical aspect of it. So all these things, once they are clear, it has to be something that we have to spread around. In the complete workforce that we engage with. Um, the the issue, the other way of handling this. So I'm not saying that while we have to do this, we are very weak in these areas, right? So today, if you look at the work that you get as an organization outsourced from any company or any client, you have all um, these topics very well documented, and the consequences also documented in the contracts that you sign, right? So today, as an as an founder of TalentOnLease, when I sit down and sign the contracts with my customers, I mean, these are the clauses that I see day in, day out, right? And I always say that, there is a lot of scope of building more robustness there, building more kind of, tighter controls there. But these are all documented part of the contracts there. So what we need to do is basically we have to be aware. As I said, we have to spread this awareness in all the people that we engage with, be it clients, all stakeholders, be it clients, be it the workforce, be it the management, everybody. So that's the only way I see that one should handle it. But do we have a choice that we want to handle it or not? No, we don't have any choice, Saddam. So it's just about accepting it and moving forward, making sure that whatever measurements we can take to kind of ensure that we have the ethical practices, we protect data privacy, security, confidential information, and the IP. We have to ensure that. We have to ensure that.
You have correctly mentioned that it's somehow boils down to personal responsibility, because there is a subjective aspect to it. And I could recall in one of the documentary, it was mentioned that earlier the air travel was like you just buy the ticket the way we board the bus. You just buy the ticket and get into the bus without any security check or anything. But
Yeah.
then those hijacking and everything happened, and then security was tightened to work around all these aspects. So I think that's a
So there is a lot of policy work because that is happening. Data protection law is passed already. It could come any day, and when it comes, suddenly we will say that, oh, this is it. Okay, this is it. Then I should have done my preparation. So I'm saying that, why to wait for getting it implemented? Why not kind of start looking and reflecting at it from today itself and say that what could I do to kind of make sure that I'm in compliance.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That we have to just look forward and start preparing today itself instead of just digging the well when there is a need of water. That approach might not work. Now you have answered all the questions very beautifully there. Thank you very much. Just the last one, probably, like, if we have to actually take that IT revolution that is happening to the next level, like what is one major thing that we can change so that we can accelerate this transformation to the next level? What would be your last message to the company, especially because you're talking to so many vendors, IT vendors as well, and talking to global clients? So what they can do differently so that we can acquire more projects, and how we can accelerate that IT revolution to the next level?
I think there are a lot of things that can be done, but the thing that which in my mind I think concerns me most is that uh, you know uh, as we discussed in the beginning that the cost and other advantage are no more the advantages of someone outsourcing the work to you, right? So
Right.
what we need to do is collectively because we need to educate our employees to kind of work hard on uh, you know making sure that they are uh, you know sharpening their hard skills on an daily basis, right? The kind of changes that we see in technology today, whether it is a full stack developer or a DevOps engineer or a DevSecOps engineer or anything, the technologies are changing very fast. So need of learning new skills, upskilling, reskilling, that's something that we have to put a lot of focus on. So one is that. The second is basically where we have to kind of uh, educate all the workforce about building advantage through uh, you know becoming more efficient, more productive, right? So one of the concern that I see from global companies when they engage engineers from India is a concern on the productivity side, right? So that's something that if we are able to kind of pass on this message to workforce and kind of help them improve on this aspect, that will also help the industry in a very very long way. IT industry in global outsourcing has its own prominence and will stay prominent. But I think uh, we cannot think of a situation where we say that the competition will not arise from anywhere else, from elsewhere.
Right.
So the competitive, it is going to be competitive. Kind of, this reminds me of a 2007 2008 talk by one of the speakers who had come from US in one of the conferences. I was then receiving the CIO 100 award, and he spoke about that the companies today make whatever amount of profit, but the companies in decade or 2 decades who know how to kind of survive and thrive in single digit profitabilities or margins, right? Those are the companies which will stay in the competition and will go a long way. So I think what we need to do is we need to identify that sweet spot for each one of us, and each company would have maybe a different view on this or a different objective that they can kind of think of kind of bringing in the mainstream. But I think um, upskilling, reskilling, it's a fast moving world. Technology landscape is changing very fast, faster than what we can even imagine or think. So that's the key focus that we have to kind of keep in mind to stay relevant, to kind of grow and thrive.
Wow, oh, that's a amazing, I think, closure of the session with very important insights. That skilling and upskilling aspect, that digital revolution that we are just seeing, and competition will be there. It's just that we need to remain ahead of that competition. So in that market, we need to keep focusing on. And you talked about towards the end a very relevant word, which is relevant. And interestingly, yesterday only Vijay Shekhar Sharma said that at some of places I mention my designation as CRO, which is Chief Relevance Officer. That
Relevance of
will my organization remain relevant? That's my role. Other things people
absolutely.
can do. So remaining relevant to the industry is another critical point of the leader. Thanks, Daya. Thanks for taking out time from your busy schedule to share your insight
Most
with our
welcome.
audience.
Most welcome, Vikas. And I thoroughly enjoyed this session. I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. Thank you, everyone who had asked questions. Give me some opportunities to kind of reflect and also learn. Thank you so much.
And thanks to especially to the audience for staying so long in today's time. Making people attend a long talk like 40 minutes seems like a distant thing, but thanks for you. And in case you want to have further query, you want to connect with Mr. Daya Prakash, the LinkedIn profile, his LinkedIn profile is shown below. You can definitely contact him and get your queries answered. Thanks again. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week with another amazing speaker, with another amazing VectoScalar Tech Talk. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice
Thank you
day
so
ahead.
much. Bye. Have a great day.